Town Hall Academy, episode 64.
We put the battery tester on the tool cart. It's right there. It's always there, and every car is tested. Our battery sales went out the roof. We couldn't get enough batteries because the tool was being used because it was available and it was readily available.
Welcome, automotive aftermarketers, to a Remarkable Results Radio Town Hall Academy. Listen to learn just one thing from today's episode on your journey to remarkable results.
Hello, aftermarket professionals. Welcome to the Town Hall Academy, episode 64, a big discussion on workplace organization and the 5S lean system. Hey, are you looking to improve your processes, to make work more organized, to take less steps in getting every task completed? If you are, well, you're in for a wide-eyed lesson. Carm Capriato here, thanking Jasper Engines for supporting the Town Hall Academy. Here's another reason to choose Jasper. It's their commitment to continuous improvement. Their investment in research and development, product updates, and remanufacturing processes means Jasper provides the perfect product. Remember, today's podcast has a sister video, and if you want to see the discussion in action, you can find it at remarkableresults.biz/A064. You will find the extended bios on my guests, and I'm so happy to say that the panel is made up of all first-timers. The 5S principles are also listed for you on the show notes page, along with the top talking points. So glad to have you here each week to listen to these powerful lessons on the aftermarket's only weekly single-topic digital audio broadcast. You know, it's like Netflix for radio. And don't forget the power of the remarkableresults.biz website. You'll find every archived episode, my speakers page, an industry events page, and an easy way to contact me. Of course, the tag cloud's there and the series filter. Now get ready for another great Academy lesson on workplace organization and the 5S method. You'll hear about waste, clutter, safety, and efficiency. My guests are Pat Brown, Cooper Tire retired and 5S lean implementer with DSP 20 Group, Keith Tucker from Triple T Tire in Dyersburg, Tennessee, and Brad and Ryan Goff from Rogers Tire in Caldwell and Meridian, Idaho. I've always said that great processes and systems win wars, and this is a great lesson on principles to improve your internal organization. So instead of conceptualizing lean and 5S, this lesson will take you right into some of the exact changes that were made to improve workplace organization from our guests. Also, see another Academy lesson on lean back in Academy episode 16. Now, let's go organize.
Lean and 5S actually came from the Japanese, and it's sometimes referred to as Kaizen, which is really eliminating waste. After World War II, the Japanese factories improved tremendously, and anybody who bought an automobile in the United States knew that the quality of the Japanese automobiles were really, really great. And it helped them experience unprecedented growth and safety and efficiency. So what happened was that the American manufacturers caught on to this, secret, and they started implementing 5S lean in their manufacturing processes. And then they started getting the same gains that the Japanese did. So this whole concept started with automotive manufacturers. But when I retired from Cooper, I joined a company called DSP, Dealer Strategic Planning, which is, you mentioned that. And I, as a part of our program, we had 3 meetings a year, and we would visit we would have a host dealer, and all of these guys here on the panel with me have hosted a 20-group meeting. Part of that 20-group meeting is a shop inspection. We call it a host visit. What that meant was that we went out into their shops, and as I explored these shops and viewed them in operation, a light bulb went off in my mind, and I thought, oh my gosh, this whole lean, efficient 5S process would be so helpful to the shop efficiencies and organization and quality, et cetera.
Sure.
That's kind of how it evolved. We've presented it during my time at DSP, and I've retired from DSP now, but we presented it to all of our groups and has had a lot of success, which I think we're going to hear about today.
Yeah, so when you were out there, you probably saw, oh my God, look at these opportunities to improve, to fix, to bring organizational skills. So what did you go back and dust off the 5S thing and kind of focused it back toward the shop?
I did. I went back and I did some research online, to find out, how this would be applicable. And, it's not only shop, but it's in the office organization as well. And I know that these guys have some examples of that. So it can make everything efficient in your whole operation when you just start looking at the 5S concepts. And I'll go over them briefly if that's okay. So
yeah, let's dig into them. Yeah.
There are 5 S's. The first one is sort. And that means, everything has to be tidy. You got to throw away rubbish. You got to get rid of unrelated materials. I mean, how many shops do you walk into and you see piles of old equipment in the corner, and it's gathering dust. It's in the way. It's preventing efficiency. And then, it just sits there. So if you're not using it, get rid of it.
So wait a minute. Don't be a hoarder.
All that stuff has a lot of value, Pat.
Oh, yeah, right. It does, Brad. I know. You guys never want to let go of anything. So, that old tire changer that's been gathering dust and needs repair and, get that out of your shop, you guys.
I got it.
I know. I'm relentless. I mean, hey, I'm kind of a neat freak to begin with. But when you walk into shops and you would see this clutter, it's like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Secondly, the second S is called set in order. And that means put things in order all around your shop. You have to have quick retrieval because if you've got one of your technicians running around, getting a tool, getting an air filter, whatever steps that they're taking, if it's not in the proper place, then they're hunting for it. Keith is going to give us a really good example. I know he's thinking of this, one of his best ideas, but we'll get to that in a moment. But set in order is really important. And then the third S is called shine. Now, y'all can figure out what that means. And how many shops have you gone into? And I mean, honest to goodness, the oil on the floor, the clutter, the trash, you have to clean the workplace. And everybody in the workplace should be a janitor. The old, if you've got time to lean, you've got time to clean, that kind of mantra. So you have to do that. The fourth S is called standardization. And you can't just clean your shop. You have to have a method for keeping it clean. You can't just, it's not a one and done. You have to, set something in order, assign janitorial duties, have a table made up. Who's doing what? Who's emptying the trash? Do you have trash bins around for people to throw trash into? That kind of thing, but it has to be standardized. And then the last one is probably the most difficult, and that's sustain. You have to figure out a way to make it your way of life. This is the way your shop operates, and everybody has to buy into it, and that means commitment. So
I love what you just said. I love the overview because the best shops I'm talking to best shops that have implemented, that move strongly into processes and system upgrades and updates constantly, perpetually, can use 5S to help them in that structure.
Absolutely.
And I think that's going to be the big takeaway when we're done. So typical 5S benefits, guys. And Pat, thanks for walking through this. And please chime in and work it because you've worked with this team. I guess, Keith, I may go to you. Is there a training culture change that goes on inside the business when you get ready to do this?
Yeah, you've got to kind of just basically do a reset. Just get everybody geared on the same path. And once you start working in the shop, trying to get things situated, all the guys will jump in and they see where you're going with it. And you explain the saving, how much time they're saving and the extra steps you're cutting out, and they start buying in.
what's so interesting is to say, if we save these steps, can you really help them turn it into dollars and happy customers?
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. You can get two more cars out a day because you're not lollygagging around looking for something.
Ryan, Brad, how can it become a basic core value inside the company?
Carm, every day we're working as coaches and trying to work. We've gotten to the point we call everybody a team because we are a team. and daily I'm trying to make myself go with that and talking with our managers about the team. So part of the team, like we've been talking about lately, is doing the huddle ups and coaching them on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, huddle ups, talking about the efficiency steps like the 5S. Before Pat even introduced it, we all knew that we were missing some things. But for instance, the Tuckers with their store, they started with one of the ideas. We share a best idea during our 20 group. And one of the things that they were doing was getting some of that efficiency. Obviously, we knew we all needed it, but hadn't worked on polishing it up to that point. Well, those guys, for one of their best ideas, had brought in a tool cart that they had designed, had everything by the car, from core tools to air chucks to safety glasses, whatever you may need to change a battery on a car, all that stuff. So, working with the 5S steps after Pat introduced them to us, I think it's something that we lose track of quite easily, talking about the clutter, like Pat said, but we're always striving to work on getting more efficient within our business.
To add that a little bit, it's really, I believe it's just should become part of your culture. It's just it's something that what you do and who you are as far as a shop. And Pat said not to just the work area, but also where's your credit card machine set? Where's your printers? How do you alleviate steps to be more efficient, to look professional also when that customer is standing in front of you?
How many times have you gone into an auto shop, a repair facility, and you look at the counter and, God love you guys, but, you like to have a lot of stuff on your counters, at least sign a paper. And, that's part of this whole concept is getting rid of clutter. Only have around you what you need, and that will keep you very efficient.
Yeah, for sure. As you well know, Pat, and everybody else knows that, when we walk into a lot of the shops, it's almost just because they need a bigger desk for just more clutter,
Exactly.
that there's so much waste there. And whenever we walk into stores that we're used to going into, we're used to a certain feel. And I think that when we don't give that feel of presentation, organization, and utilize everything, that we're really putting the customer off or not creating the best experience. So those standards go into so much of that.
Carm Capriato here with Ron Haugen of Westside Auto Pros. Ron, are Jasper product improvements important when deciding to buy your next engine or transmission?
Oh, absolutely. Not only important for me, because I know that I'm going to put a product in a vehicle that's going to last, but they're important for my customer. My customer's already got an engine that's failed, maybe because a component was under-engineered, and Jasper's gone in and found that and fixed that. And if somebody's committing to the kind of investment to put an engine in their vehicle, they're going to want the best one they can get.
Hey, Ron, what could you tell me about Jasper's customer service?
Jasper's customer service is above and beyond pretty much any of the vendors' customer service that we use. There's been times that I've often thought we need to hire whoever trains Jasper's staff to come train my staff. I mean, from the initial phone call to if there's a warranty problem, a question, a technical issue, they answer the phone and you're immediately talking to the person that can help you.
Hey, Ron, thanks for your insights on Jasper.
Thanks for asking.
Guys, let's talk about the benefits. What can we decrease inside the business? For example, injuries. Very possibly a great benefit there.
Yeah, I think that with the training and the lack of clutter around the cars you're working on, obviously it's huge for safety. And we all know how cheap insurance is. So we can all cut down on some of those costs by going back to the training and the standards, properly lifting a tire or a wheel. I know the Tuckers are kind of like us. They do a lot of industrial work too. And I think that just recently myself, I've had most of my staff go through and do the online TIA training. While most of us have done it for years and years and years, I think, again, it goes back to the coaching and practicing, that if we don't stay up with that stuff, I think we lose track of it and maybe start to shortcut some of those things that we shouldn't be doing. And I think we also, within our businesses, always need to lead by that example.
I understand. What else? Can we help minimize comebacks with a good 5S system?
Most definitely, for sure. I think if you look at an efficient technician, they don't want the clutter. You gotta have your resources in a attainable area where within a couple steps, and you need to make sure that efficiency's there. You can't have somebody tripping over a jack or something like that. And not only are you risking injury, you're also risking productivity by losing that employee for hours, or hopefully not worse than that. But it can definitely play into the whole morale of your store. Tripping over a jack. I love that. I mean, there's the soundbite. You don't want to trip over a jack. So how do you not trip over a jack, Ryan? well, the obvious thing is to put it up. Right? But unfortunately, that has to, and I'm sure Keith can adhere to this, you have to reinforce that over and over, and everybody should know where that jack goes and where it's at. And it should be in that area that you can get to it in an easy manner without having to clear other things out of the way. Like Pat said, throw the junk around it away, and be able to get to that in a quick, timely manner and utilize it over and over. As a football team practices over and over and over and over and over again to play a few hours of football, and we forget that in business that it should be somewhat the same way.
That's right. It's kind of like shaving. When you go in there to shave every morning, everything's on the counter right there beside you. You don't have to walk up. You don't have to go back to the bedroom and get all your stuff together. All right. And if you're running late, if you run all over the house trying to get your stuff together, well, then you're going to be late. So it makes your job quicker. And the same thing with if that jack's where it's supposed to be, you don't have to run looking for it.
This is a good time to bring in one of the tools that you can use to implement 5S, and that's called process mapping. If you've never done that, when I learned about Lean, we were instructed to take these little sticky notes, and select a common routine that you do every day, just like Keith said, brushing your teeth or shaving or, what you do to get ready in the morning. Well, I picked making coffee in the morning, and I put every step, when I would get up, I'd go get the coffee maker. I would fill it up with water. Then I would put the grounds in, put the filter in, put the grounds in, Well, I timed each one of those steps. And it occurred to me that if I put my carafe in the sink and put the water on, going into the carafe while I was getting the filter out and measuring out the coffee, I could save 15 seconds on that process every morning. Okay, well now 15 seconds doesn't sound like a lot of time, but you multiply that times 365 days a year, it saves time. And that's the way you have to go about understanding how you can make your processes more lean. Use process mapping, take a task, and it has to be a team effort. And I know you guys have done this, Ryan, Keith, and Brad. Get your teams involved. Ryan, you talked about teamwork. It's a team effort, but get your folks involved and set down these, what are the steps to an oil change? How can you shave off a little bit of time for each oil change? And then, as Keith said, you can get more cars in and out during a day. And that means more money for you and more money for your tax.
One thing you said, too, as far as both two of you have said something about keeping the team involved. if the Jeff and I can go out there and we can create a system and a process, but no matter how many times we create it, if they're not comprehending it and they didn't help create the process, then they don't really buy in sometimes. So if they help us with that, then that's their process, and they take a little pride in everybody else, going by that. So
go
ahead.
Well, the only problem I see with that, Keith, is just you just need to change more tires.
Yeah, I hear you. That's exactly right.
Isn't that a good thing?
That's exactly right. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back for a second, if you don't mind. Brad mentioned the quick cart that Keith and Jeff Tucker developed to, I thought it was for oil changes, it's for batteries. But Keith, talk about that, because he won our best idea. And one of the things that we do at every DSP meeting is that every person attending the meeting, every business is required to bring in a best idea. And, that it's really great, because not only do you win a prize maybe, and Keith won for his quick cart, but you also take away 19 other great ideas that you can hopefully implement in your business. So it's a wonderful concept. And I think a lot of the best ideas have been, efficiency, improvement in quality and whatnot. But Keith, talk about your quick cart a little bit, because that was really, honestly, that's kind of what got me started thinking about, 5S in the shop.
Right. Well, it was for oil changes, batteries, anything general service. All of our general service techs use it. A whole set of wrenches from metric and standard are in there, and they're hanging up, marked. Everything's labeled where it goes, and if it's missing, somebody knows what's missing. And it stays there, and all the guys use it. And believe it or not, it works out real well, because everybody can kind of see what is missing. If somebody got it, then they're all working together trying to keep it together. It's got several drawers in it. It's got pliers, screwdrivers, and everything. And everything's marked and basically got impressions where it was laying, so it's always going back. Every air filter that you have to change, so if it takes a special Torx bit, it's in that cart. They don't have to run over to one of the techs, the mechanical techs, and borrow a tool. Everything to do that with is right there in that cart. And that was where, in order to make one of the least profitable items on your menu, there's an oil change. You don't make a lot of money on the oil change. You make good money on the inspections if you do them. So all of the tools to do the inspections are in that cart also. And if you can eliminate 5 minutes from an oil change and inspection to where you can get another car in, then you've made, you hadn't really made any, you made more money because it didn't take as long to do it.
And looking at that, what can I took away from it, you showing that to us, we've always had the tools in the area where we worked, Keith, and when you guys presented that, really it made sense, because why aren't we just sitting there and that job's, your cart is ready to do your job. You don't need to, all you got to do is turn around. And I think that was, one of the biggest benefits to, all right, this is a simple process that we can implement right away, and you don't have to go out and necessarily train your technician on it. But here's part of your tool case here.
And one of the most important things that Keith mentioned about is having everything labeled, and that's critical. And even in your office management, I know in Keith's office, because I took a picture of it, he has a bin with all the forms that they need. I'm sure it was yours. I remember it. He had this look on his face. But every form that your office staff needs is clearly labeled, so you can just pick it out of the bin. You don't have to hunt get through file folders, go across the room, pull out a filing cabinet. Everything is right there at your hand, ready to be used. And that's so important with the tools too, because Keith said, this is so funny, because when I have shown that picture of his original quick cart, one of the tools is missing, and almost everyone that I presented this to says, "Hey, that flashlight's missing." You know, it was really pretty funny, but that's a critical element in this whole thing, is to have things clearly labeled.
I love the examples. We need to get into more examples. Pat, when you've approached people in the 20 groups and said, hey, I want to help you with 5S and becoming more workplace efficient and organized, a lot of naysayers out there?
Well, I think that we go through an exercise when I start my presentation, and these guys will remember the exercise, and I'll try to describe it to you. I give everybody a sheet of paper that has random numbers scattered, like from 1 to 100, all over the paper. And I say the first exercise is circle the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that you can find in 30 seconds. So they do that. And, you know, you don't get very many numbers because they're all jumbled. It's all over the page. And, you know, it's fun to do, but it's not, you know, you don't feel good about it. You only get to number 6. And then the second iteration of that exercise is that we take away some of the numbers, you know, don't make it quite as complicated. And they can get a little further in 30 seconds, maybe get up to 20 numbers. Then the third iteration is I take one of the numbers out and we ask people to find the missing number. You guys remember this? Walking through this? Yeah.
Yeah.
The last.
I couldn't find any of those numbers, Pat.
I know, right? it was sad and pathetic.
Pat, like that?
Yes. The last piece of this exercise is that all the numbers are put into rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, da, 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 da. And then you say, you know, duh, you know, how easy is this compared to the way it was, you know, when they were all randomly jumbled? So I think going through that exercise kind of got the buy-in from you guys. Am I right? Did that kind of set
for
the
sure
tone?
did, yeah.
Yeah, it turns the light on.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there for a minute, but nobody could hear what I was saying. And yeah, I think it definitely turned on the light. And it's funny. I want to bounce back a minute to Keith's oil cart. We know that it can certainly be achieved, and what Keith did and Jeff were awesome. But recently in one of our conversations during our meeting, if we think back, was we know that there are some people out there doing oil changes efficiently in under 10 or 12 minutes, including an inspection on a vehicle. And they're doing, I can't remember how many per day, but it is a huge amount. The only way that you can possibly do that's based on efficiency and standards and procedures, right?
Yeah. Streamlined procedure.
Streamlined, yeah.
And you guys all know that the inspections are really the bread and butter of, you know, an efficient and profitable operation. And those inspections are important to the customer. I mean, you have a lot of customers just like me. You know, I've been involved in the tire industry my entire life, you know, but, you know, what I know about cars and maintenance, you can put in a thimble. So I really rely on my dealer to help me understand what my vehicles need. And it's so important that inspection is critical in identifying those areas that need maintenance before they become a problem. So, and to make it efficient, then, you know, your folks can do the inspections efficiently. The customers appreciate it, you know, and it's a win-win.
So there's some savings in duplications of assets, right?
Absolutely.
For sure, yeah, for sure.
An example, anyone?
Time, there's nothing more than, is there anything more valuable than time?
Yeah, well, you know, I keep thinking about, you know, a large shop and they need 2 battery chargers, one at one end and one at the other, you know, one north, one south. And if it was discussed as a team as to the best place it should be, then maybe you can get by with just one because it always has a place. It's always has a home. And we discovered that we would use it on vehicles in this section or this area of the shop more often than not. And am I thinking right? That's how you would want to stop and analyze the deploy of an asset?
And what percentage of time is it getting used, right? If you're only using that second one 20% of the time, then you maybe need to reevaluate it and do just like you said. Look at it and say, hey, we can utilize the one if we put it in the right location.
Have you ever gone as deep as to look inside the tool the tool drawers and said to the techs, you know what, we're doing all this stuff on the outside. How about in your own box? Can you,
that's a scary thought.
Oh boy.
we can do we don't go near there, Carm. That'd be like World War III. We wanted to finish the day.
Definitely, though. I mean, what you're saying, though, Carm, 100%. I think that the technicians by themselves, while we talk about it within the shop and we work in practice, that there's a lot of technicians that are very unorganized within their own box. Here at our Caldwell location, we do have a tech, though, that this guy is one of the most organized technicians I've ever seen. Everything has a place. Everything, when he goes home in the evening, no matter if it takes him an hour to clean up, is polished, put back. Every drawer is laid out to where he's methodical about the way he does his steps and the way he prepares his cart to work on a job. He is, it's like watching somebody assemble burgers at McDonald's, for instance. Everything has a process and the reason why he's doing it.
I hope to have the YouTube screenshot of this webinar of a picture of a drawer of a technician's tools organized like that. Yeah. By the way, I have a friend, Jim Fleischman, who's been on the podcast before, and that's how his toolbox looks. So I called him up and said, Jim, I need a picture of your drawer because we're going to talk about this.
Yeah.
And so I brought it up only because you're going to see this picture, guys, and maybe it will motivate, if it works really well in the shop, it's got to work on a personal basis too. And Pat, you brought up this great thing about the office. I hope no one looks at my desk. I need to be better at this. And so I'm taking this opportunity to try to become more efficient. So more examples, guys and lady. Let's go back to some, for example, your great idea, Keith, on the, if you will, the task cabinet, the single task cabinet. What do you really call it inside the shop?
The cart, service cart.
The cart, the service cart.
That's right.
Yeah.
Keep it simple, right?
Yeah. Keep it simple,
All right. And if you're busy, do you have two or just only one?
We've got one on one side of the shop. What we have run into is going back to what they was talking about a while ago is if you've got one, what you said is if you've got, feel like you need two, but you put the one battery tester in one location to where everybody knows where it's at, it can always be used. What we had is our battery, just the fact that our batteries was not getting tested because they was having to leave the bay, go over to the cabinet, get the tester, walk back. The cabinet was on the wall away from everything. So we put the battery tester on the tool cart. All right. And it's right there. It's always there. And every car is tested. Our battery sales, went out the roof. We couldn't get enough batteries because the tool was being used because it was available and it was readily available.
Big takeaway, not only are we talking about organizational skills here and efficiencies, we're talking about, you just said the revenue word to me.
Sales, yeah.
Oh my God. Stop. Let that absorb everyone who's listening. Let that absorb. We tested more batteries. We helped our customer prevent a roadside, battery failure.
Well, and I have to tell you, getting back to the customers who really value this kind of service, I had my car serviced, and a month after my car was serviced, and I'm not going to tell you what store this was, I had a dead battery. And I'm telling you, I was really irritated because They should have told me. They should have tested my battery, and they should have told me that battery needed replaced. And I never went back to that dealer because I thought they didn't do a good job. And not only do you get more revenue from more batteries, but you also, keep your customers happy.
So Pat, I got a question for you as a consumer, and they didn't test that. Did you ever let them know about that when it happened?
I didn't, and I should have. In my business, shame on me. I should have called them up and said, hey, thanks for nothing.
Well, I guess the reason I asked that question is because what happens to most of us, and we don't know this and don't recognize it, is that when that takes place, we don't see that customer come back in many cases, and we never know why.
Yeah.
And so if we're not following these standard procedures on every vehicle, it gets skipped. And so we talk about revenue dollars. There's a classic example of how you can lose those dollars, never know about it, and always wonder why. Mm-hmm. When in fact, it comes back to, hey, they didn't test this battery. It was supposed to be tested. And if it did get tested, then it wasn't reported, to whoever was supposed to be telling you about it.
Right.
Hey, everyone, I want to link something here. The digital vehicle inspection phenom, the software, DVI, has been, called in our industry. It does a lot of interesting things, customer CRMs, texting. But more and more I've heard from people that they've taken DVI and they've improved their processes inside the shop. And whatever situation that they would have, they would write a process behind it and let it be, followed through in a tablet. Have you guys gotten that far with digital vehicle inspections?
For sure. Yeah, we started utilizing a long time ago with Tire Guru. They have they've merged more into the service industry, okay, and are doing a built-in digital tablet. And just like everything on that end of it, I believe it's also about efficiency, and integration is the key. So whatever a person does, integration is huge. And so, steps that you save amongst that, and, you can create the best communication. Also, it leaves a timeline. So you have a timestamp of when inspections start, and you can help to improve efficiency.
Yeah, you're right about you said the words missing steps, and I'm not sure if it was the physical walking steps or the steps of the process.
Both,
steps of the process. Yeah. And, Keith, going back to it, if you have a DVI and it is a vehicle inspection and that testing was supposed to happen, then it's integrated into the walkthrough, if you will. Step A, step B, step right. C, step C. 1, C2, C3, and onward and so forth. And it just seems to me that without many of our people in the industry knowing it, if they're adapting and bringing digital vehicle inspections into the realm of their business, they're starting some form of 5S.
Right. Yep. Myself and Ryan started the digital process due to the fact that our printer broke one day. And both of us happened to be working a Saturday together. And Ryan says, why do we need the printer? We're digital anyway. We're wasting paper. The paper gets laid somewhere. You lose track of it. Let's just do without the printer. See what happens. And for us, part of the 5S, it happened that day. And we've never gone back to it. So within our business, we never print a copy of paper 99% of the time until the customer is ready to leave with their invoice, which at point also it delivers it to their inbox. And our messaging within the store, there's a trail history with timestamp of what's gone on, where parts are, where the customer's vehicle can be. Now, it can always be polished, and that's part of the practice, but it saved us money in expenses from printing. And it also saved time in the fact that we weren't chasing down paperwork within the shop, saving steps and time also.
Well, and to relate that, and to tell a little bit of story about, we all have the instance of, hey, the technician told the service advisor this, right? And I think we've all been in that scenario where the technician says, hey, I told the service supervisor didn't tell the customer. And the service supervisor says, no, that person didn't tell me. Well, with the correct documentation and something that can't be erased, if it's put down, well, there is no debate.
And another aspect of that Brad just mentioned, you email that document to the customer, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yep. It goes to the customer,
so
including the digital inspection form along with the invoice. So it's kind of a two-part system.
So it's ecologically friendly. You're not wasting paper. And secondly, it allows you to capture that email address, which is so important in today's business, to market yourselves, to capture that email address. So you can follow up with customers, send out newsletters, send out specials, things that are going on. And, sometimes people are a little resistant to give their email address. But if the whole idea is you're going green and you are going to send their invoice, so it'll be in their permanent record. You're going to save paper. They're more acceptable to that. So, you've saved time. You've had a good process. It does fit into the lean program.
Keith, I want to talk to you a minute about how do you look and take time? You stand back, you look at what's working and what isn't. And is there any special advice you could give to a shop owner on how to, not only how to start it, but how to continue, as Pat said earlier, sustain it?
Join 20 group.
Okay.
And go see another shop. And once you see somebody else's shop, then you can come back and look at your own shop with a completely different perspective. And you'll gain the momentum that you need to do to get the ball rolling.
Okay, so you implement. You're going.
Right.
The team has bought in. Is there any magic that you have used to continue to improve it? Have you involved the team? Have you gone in at night, turned off the lights, watched in your mind the flow of the shop, looked for an area of improvement, and then gone to the team and says, listen, I watched a bottleneck we had yesterday?
Just a simple something that I've noticed, and we've addressed it. We run service trucks. The guy that runs the service truck, when he gets back, he pulls all the way around the building, unloads the junk tire at the very back of the building. When he gets another service call, okay, he don't unload it right then, but he waits till he gets another service call to unload it. All right, instead of backing up to the junk trailer and flipping the tire off in the junk trailer to where you don't have to handle it again. That's just a simple thing. All right. That's a simple way of removing waste the first time instead of handling it 5 more times before you get it in the junk trailer. Just a simple thing. You just have to stand back and really see what's happening.
Got it. Brian, Brad, any ideas on how to be a good leader of this?
Oh, I think, like you said, I think standing back sometimes and just watching and seeing what your team's doing, watching the moves, the efficiency. What Keith just said about the service truck driver dropping off. I just had a conversation yesterday with my lead tire guy and my manager about our junk trailer. They take the time, they'll move them from the shop, they put them out by the trailer when the trailer has plenty of space. So now, instead of putting it right in there and stacking at that point, they got to go back out and now lift them twice. So twice the labor, twice the time, and it's a waste. It's a waste. So literally yesterday was that coaching moment talking about, hey, these tires don't hit the ground if there's space in the trailer. They go in the trailer where we don't have to move them 2 or 3 more times.
What you're saying is that the job was being done in steps, and you're saying, no, the job is only one step.
That's exactly right. And that's not always on them. That's on us. But when you're standing back looking, the problem is if you're buried in your business, and we talk about this all the time, if you're buried in your business, you're buried at the front counter, you're the guy changing tires,
You don't see it.
you never have that opportunity to engage with them. And I think as owners, that's one of the hardest things, is knowing that we've got to step away and trust our people. But when we gain that trust by working with them on that daily basis. And for myself, it's tough to stand back and let that happen because I'm a very hands-on person. I know Keith is especially. So we got to work on our own problems first to help those guys and let them know, hey, this is what we're looking for. Try to explain that to them, and then run it through your general manager or whoever a service manager or your right-hand man might be or lady.
Well, I think we're also beneficial that we've gotten involved in like the 20 group and also probably the people who listen to Carm's podcasts and live videos are people who are wanting to invest their time and energy into creating a better culture and a better business. And those particular people are hopefully we all get a benefit out of listening to things like this in the 20 groups. But there's so many, unfortunately, in the industry who say, well, this has worked this way for so long, there's no reason to change. Well, and when we get to stand back and we can all see, yeah, they need to change or they're not going to be around for the future. It's
well, like for you and me, though, Ryan, not to cut you off there, but we grew up in this business learning from our father. And so when you grow up in it, I think like Keith did and his brother, we continue down the path of, hey, if it's working, why mess with it? And we never have that opportunity to look outside that box. Thanks to the help of people like yourself, like Pat, like Dennis, Norm Gaither, those people help shed light on things that we knew that were missing, but didn't take the time, A, to work on it, and B, didn't understand fully how to implement it. And we think that we're the only ones ever going through these problems when in fact we're not. Every one of us own a shop. Every day that we step in there, it happens to us.
That's such a great point. It really is. And for anyone who's listening to this that says, I don't need this, can we all say in unison, you're wrong?
Yeah, you're wrong.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, you're wrong.
You're wrong.
Well, that's one of the things that, and I'm glad you guys brought this up, but you guys are busy and sometimes you're hands-on, you're on the counter, you're trying to, you don't have the time to step back and take a look at your business. And that's what kind of we do in the 20 group. It forces them to get away from your business and work on your business, not in your business. And it helps you go back and take a look with a fresh eye and really think about, strategy. And it's very beneficial. And the biggest argument we usually get when we talk about, joining a 20 group, I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to travel. I don't have time. But every one of you guys, and I think you can confirm this, it is a good investment of your time to step back and work on your business instead of in your business.
Yeah.
Am I right, guys?
Well, and Carm knows firsthand, as many people as he talks to in the industry, we all hear the same story over and over, and we're guilty as charged. The hardest thing we can do is work on the business. It's always easier to just immerse yourself in it and say, I don't have time for the other, because the working on it is the most difficult thing, I think, to make happen.
Give me a task.
Yeah, and when I was kidding Keith about earlier about, he needs to change more tires himself, when I said that, really, being of what we do and how long we've done it, we know that it's much easier at the moment just to do it yourself, than it is to create the culture to teach it.
Boy.
And so I think that's what happens amongst so many owners. Well, if I just do it myself, I don't have to train anybody else to do it. But the problem is, what are you going to do tomorrow when you're sick or you're injured or whatever? And how do you grow? You don't. So you need to implement the things like the 5 S's and be self-aware. And I tell Brad this all the time, as owners, we use a lot of excuses to not do things because it's convenient for the moment.
I love what I'm hearing from you all. Great points of leadership, of being in control, being in charge. We're nearing the end of the hour, and I do want everyone to chime in and give some great advice on the value that 5S has brought to your business. But there's two thoughts that came to my mind, and I kept thinking about earlier, and I wrote down this interesting word on my notes here. And I was trying to think about how to find the return on investment or to quantify the value that 5S would bring to a company. And all I could think about is one of you guys said steps, and I was thinking about a pedometer. And you'd say, we're gonna test everybody for a month before they're not even gonna know about it. It's all about this health craze we're on, and then we're gonna slowly implement lean. And 4 or 5 months later, we're gonna try it again, and we're gonna say, not that we did what we wanted to do, is we brought our efficiency level up because we were stepping less.
Well, maybe that's what we need to do, Carm, is sell those smartwatches and let people walk through our shop without efficiency. We'll burn up calories. We might be on a different page there.
You're right.
Well, when we opened up this location, talk about efficiencies, our manager kept one of those counters on his belt all the time. And in 1 day's time, and this is long before the 5S's, in 1 day's time that we knew of, right, he clocked almost 21 miles in a day in a 15,000 square foot shop.
We went our way to get 20. If he would have got 22, we would have done better.
You are a slave driver, Ryan.
Simon Legree, yeah.
Wow.
We don't realize on a daily basis, honestly, how much we run around being inefficient, and why it's far from being perfect. I think at least with the three of us, and like again, thanks to Pat and people shedding light, it makes us more aware of it. And those steps now, we're still making them, but it's half as much because of the efficiencies that's come around from things that we put in place.
Perfect.
There's another process really quick that my colleague Dennis talks about. It's called a spaghetti diagram. And if you take your shop layout and trace those steps as people are running around your shop, it looks like a massive bowl of spaghetti. And then it really brings it home as to how many steps are being wasted in a day.
That's all I would need. Really, in my mind, that's all I would ever need is just that spaghetti concept in my mind to realize that I needed to have, what do they say, the quickest point for, wave from point A to point B is a straight line.
Yeah.
Straight line.
Boy, Okay, Pat Brown, Cooper Tire, retired, and she learned lean from the manufacturing side and brought it to the dealer strategic planning group. Pat, any final words?
Well, I think 5S is all about eliminating waste, whether you're talking about people, process, information, or assets. If you're wasting any of those things, you need to get involved in lean and understand 5S.
Well, we hope we can recruit a few people. Brad Goff from Rogers Tire in Caldwell, Idaho.
My best advice every day, I think that we work on them, think about those steps, and involve our key people to where they're helping that team come together. And like Keith had mentioned, you got to make them be part of that idea, because if we're always driving it down their throat, it never seems to work like if it comes from them. We can plant the seed, but they're the ones that need to grow it, because we can't make them do it on our own. They've got to be involved. And then, like Dennis also says, you got to put a little cash in the bank with the big thank you, and be specific about what they're doing on the thank you. Thank you for putting the tire in the trailer, for instance, as part of that step.
That's huge. I love that. And what got me to thinking was that there would be a champion, both, in the bays and a champion at the service counter to help continue the process, the sustaining part that Pat talked about, which to me is the hardest part. Wow, we worked on this whole thing, and you just leave it in place forever, and all of a sudden it slowly breaks down because the world changes and processes changes and vehicles change and people change, right?
Yep. It's covered in dust. Yep.
Bingo. Right. Okay. Thanks. Great stuff. Ryan Goff, Rogers Tire. Final words, Ryan?
Yeah. Back to what I think we originally started. It just needs to be part of the culture of what you do. It's, I think it's really that simple. Don't overanalyze it. Just be aware of yourself. Be aware of how things need to function. And then, back to you, Carm. Thanks for what you're doing for the industry also. Okay. Things like the 20 group and awareness that you bring to the industry. I appreciate it.
Hey, I love it. This is what I was born to do. It just took me a few years to figure it out. Thank you. And I try to be lean as much as I possibly can. But I always eat spaghetti, so that doesn't help.
There you go.
Keith Tucker, final word from Triple T Tire in Dyersburg, Tennessee. Keith?
Carm, I just think that anybody that wants to start that, you look at the simplest things, look at the simplest task, and pay attention to what's going on, and perfect that. Cut out a step or two here and there, and then move up to the more complex, and you'll get the gist of it, and you'll see how much you'll save and make because of it.
Wow, this is so great. Listen, I'm going to put that 5S, the sort, set in order, shine, standardize, sustain. I'll put that up on the show notes page. There's tons of stuff on Google. Just Google the 5S's in Lean, and you'll see it. You can read all about it, but if you don't implement it, doesn't work, right? And remember, processes, good systems win wars, competitive wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, it was great. I learned a lot, and I think we maybe shook a tree or two out there.
Yeah, I hope so.
It was great.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time.